with insights, and we are eager for you to dive right in.
All right, thank you. You basically did my whole talk in one sentence. Thank you. I'm going to share my slides. So as Alexandra mentioned, I'm here today to talk to you about why security professionals should be writing code. So just first, who am I? A bit of background information about me. I was in a red team and a blue team, so I like to call myself purple because that's the marketing term for it. I was working at McAfee, before that at KPN, Adyen, and Fox IT. Fox IT is a Dutch security company, for those who don't know it. I love doing conferences. I think my first touch with cybersecurity was at a conference. So that was really nice when I was doing my computer science master's at TU Delft. I'm the organizer of Wicca, which is that's the nice logo down there with the women in cybersecurity community of the Netherlands. But my true passion besides cybersecurity is writing books and playing Dungeons and Dragons, because that's everything. Everyone should be doing this in their lives, playing D&D. Anyway, enough about me. Let's go back to the topic at hand. Why security professionals should be writing code. This is not... Sorry about this. The dog was barking. So we have everything today. We have barking dogs. We have internet problems. It's great. I'll just go into the code. I'll just go back to the slide. I thought I heard something, but okay. Sorry about this. All right, so to go back, we have this ping script that takes the input of a user, and I'll just show you how to run it. And actually, I have access to the, I see there was no sound, but it's back now, apparently. So I have access to the chat. So if the audience wants to contribute to this writing a secure ping software, then I will, I can read what's in the audience chat. So I'm going to share my code for the demo. And just to show you how it runs, and this is spoilers, just ping Google, that's it. But as you could see from the spoilers, I can easily escape this command, because it basically just takes the user input and runs it with os.system. And for anyone who has Python knowledge, they know that this should be like a red flag for, oh God, this is really not insecure. You can just say, okay, you can ping this stuff and then get all the secrets. So how would you secure this? And I would like to see some input from the audience if possible. Otherwise, I will just keep on going. I think there's a slight delay actually, right, in the live stream and me.
You can keep on going and I can read you any replies that come in on the chat.
Yeah, sounds good. So one way to actually secure this, one thing you would think, for example, what you can see was I basically broke the initial query by adding a semicolon and then ran another command of my choice. So what I can do is maybe I can add an if statement. I'll just go back to the slide. I can add an if statement that says, if you find the semicolon, then just remove it and then execute the command. This is great. But there are other symbols that you can actually add that will also break the command. And that is a pipe symbol. So then you just say, forget the input, pipe it somewhere else, and then execute whatever command comes after. So what are you going to do? Are you going to, for each of the characters that are considered bad, are you going to add them to your if statement? And this is something that we actually see a lot in code that is written, which is more the blacklisting approach or the disallow list approach, where you just keep on adding characters to a list of bad characters. and then you process the input. But this is not actually the right way to do it, because if there is one entry point, hackers will always find a way to get it. So I'm just going to tell you briefly how to actually do this. If you really insist on having the os.system Python command here, the way to do this would be with a allow list, or whitelist approach. So you only allow a regex that matches an IP address. In this case, you just want an IP address. So you will only allow something that looks like an IP address and nothing else. That would be the way to do it. But for a lot of developers where you keep on pinging back and forth saying, yeah, you're allowing semicolons, or you're allowing this, they're not going to think about, oh, maybe we should just change the mindset of, okay, disallow into what do we actually allow? And this conclusion could have been made by just talking to security specialists immediately and maybe brainstorm about the problem a little more. And especially if they have no idea how the hacker mindset works, then they might be a little lost in building actual secure software. So as we can see, building secure software is challenging. And we can see that by going into even just open source softwares like GitLab, for example, or any other open source projects. They have a ton of issues. And these are all the open issues in the GitLab project. This screenshot was taken a month ago. I'm sure it has increased by now, but 40,000 issues that can be related to code, it can be related to UX, it can be related to anything, user experience or databases or anything else. And then when we look at the security issues, so the issues that actually concern security, we have 6,000 issues open. So do you really think a developer has time to even think about all the bad characters that could be included in an input field? Maybe not. They have deadlines, they have pressure, and they have 40,000 issues open. So let's start to build something together and see how that workflow happens. So imagine you want to build a cool website. And your cool website has a ton of different users. So because it handles user data, it needs to be secured. And if you are in Europe, you need to do this according to GDPR regulations. Because of the user data that is handled is stored into this cool database. And this cool database, of course, needs to be secured because you want your user data to be entirely secure. So you also need to secure the communication between the website and the cool database. Now, imagine this website runs on a server somewhere or in a container, but we're going to say that it's the same thing because, simplification. You need to secure wherever it runs, whether it's a server or a container inside a server or a container inside a VM inside a server, you need to secure this. And then your website is actually communicating with a bunch of other websites. And maybe these websites are using the same database. So you need to secure that as well. And you need to make sure that everything is fine. And this is fine so far. But imagine that all these containers or servers and web servers and databases are all communicating with each other every day, actively exchanging data. You need to make sure that this is secure, this is secure, this is secure, and everything is fine. Now you've made sure that everything was secure. But what if you missed a spot? You missed securing some database, or you missed securing the communication, and some hacker actually managed to break your security, find one entry point because you missed that spot over there, and they are awesome. So they broke your database and they managed to leak all your secrets. And they're even, maybe they deployed ransomware in your network, and they're harassing you for money against information. So as a developer, I need to make 21 different logs, think of all the ways my application could get owned, make the application, maintain the application, and actually bear with clients, managers, deadlines, and they are under a whole lot of pressure. And as security professionals, we are under a different kind of pressure, but we need to learn to empathize with each other. Because as a hacker, the only thing I need to do is actually break the application, and then my work is done. I have a video over here, but it won't play with this format, sorry, but this is the gist of the video. So why should security professionals write code? compassion. Like I mentioned, we work much better this way by basically thinking in the other's shoes and trying to relate with one another. Teach a person to fish and go fish together. Little anecdotes, when I was working for some company and I was giving security training, like a basic security training to some of the developers, web developers, they had never heard of OWASP, which is the open source web application security, basically repository of knowledge. They had never heard of this. So, and when I was studying at TU Delft at computer science, software engineering, security was not really a part of software engineering, which you would think is kind of absurd, but actually now it is. They changed it, but when I was studying there, they prioritized more functionality, performance, and robustness. Those were the pillars of software engineering. So what do we need to do? Well, we need to train our people. So train developers, teach them those basic security concepts, share knowledge, do code reviews, get a security professional to actually work with the developers when they're doing code reviews, open communication channels, make it easy for developers and security professionals to actually approach each other, make them also feel welcome to do so, work with developers to configure stuff, especially when you're working in infrastructure. You can have an INFOSEC team or work with the infrastructure team. And join the sprints, have a security professional who is there when developers are actually doing sprint reviews and reflections. So thank you very much. I think this was pretty fast, so we have time for questions. So if there are any questions, feel free to reach out. And this is my Twitter handle, by the way, if you want to follow or things like this.
For questions, a few suggestions were thrown. Exactly. I was wondering, could you tell us maybe a little bit about how this attitude towards developers coming from security professionals felt like for you? I mean, when you started off, did you first work as a developer and then transitioned, or did you work straight into the security domain and then you've reached this conclusion just by seeing the interactions that security professionals have with developers?
Yeah, so I worked, I directly was in and that's when, yeah, that's when I noticed that this was not only in my team, but in other parts of the world, basically.
And maybe a follow-up to this, can you tell us a bit about some of the knowledge transfer methods that you've seen implemented or maybe have been part of that you think were the most effective?
I know it's difficult for a huge company to do this, but what I really liked in one of the companies I worked with was that they trained everybody, literally everybody. Every new hire had a security training, but not only just some security training you do in the system and you don't even read the questions, you just fill the answers until everything is right, but more like the security team was actually going to each team and training them to each new hire. And that was really nice. So new hire trainings. One thing we do at GitLab is, I mean, everybody is on the same chat. So we're all on the same Slack. And we have channels for developers and security together. So if they have a question or anything, or they want something reviewed, they can easily approach the security team. Mm-hmm. So these are two examples of communication and training.
Yeah, I'm curious, do you have any personal opinion on whether assigning roles and labels to our knowledge base, let's say, or professional know-how, do you think that assigning the label sort of pushes people to say, these concerns are not my job, I will not spend mental bandwidth on them? And can we do anything like within our power as professionals to transition from this label model into a model where everyone is invested in thinking about even beyond the boundaries of their very strict skill set?
Tough questions. But,
yeah, I wonder about them a lot. So
now I do think, I mean, labels to some extent are needed That's how humans work. But it's true that it sort of constricts and restricts you to like, oh, this is in the security box, so I'm not gonna worry about it. I think the best, maybe one of the good ways to get around that would be to raise awareness in the sense that you sort of tell the developers why it should be their problem, not how or what, but like why, and make them reason, like, for example, try like code execution. Oh, this is for security to check if we have that, but tell them like, okay, if you implement this way, then it's vulnerable for this, and this is what can happen, and it could actually have been prevented long ago. So I think awareness on the why is would be the answer, or a answer. Might not be the right one, but would help.
Yeah, awareness on the why is so catchy, and it's gonna stay stuck to my brain for a long while now. One thing I've seen work in places where I've worked before was doing sort of competitions or games cross teams and cross specialization, so that, for example, I ended up playing code golf as a security professional with developers or with people from incident response, and just getting your hands dirty in something that's playful humanizes the other person to you so that you feel more comfortable approaching them, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, any sort of team building will help indeed to sort of like lower defenses. Yeah, I mean, so I work for like an all remote company, so we do these kind of online gaming things, but in real life you could definitely have like a meet and greet event. It can feel awkward, but it's always nice to get to see the faces behind the emails you keep, or the usernames you keep on complaining about.
Yeah, and especially during the pandemic, it's really, really tough to have these human connection moments anymore when everything is like Zoom and virtual backgrounds. I love yours, by the way. Uh,
Thank you.
I was also thinking about the coding exercise that you put on recently, and I was trying to embody a person who perhaps hasn't gone through the software development education curriculum, right? And they're seeing that exercise and maybe they feel sort of intimidated and saying, oh, I know in theory, you know, if I were to do this in the command line, I know how I would escape it, but I don't know how to build it. I don't know how to write the code. And I've sort of seen this overcome at times by coder dojo practices, where you have an exercise and people take turns writing a few lines of code each, but they don't have to write them like from their own heads. They can take input from the others, but as long as they're doing the physical motion and being sort of in charge of writing those lines, you can sort of help them get closer to the feeling of, oh, I have agency, I can learn this, I can handle this, right?
Yeah, that's that's indeed sounds like indeed like a psychological trait to get people invested.
Mm-hmm.
So that definitely works. But for someone with, at least for this example, for someone with no coding knowledge, I would say even think you don't have to think about it in code terms, but even in pseudocode or just sentences like, I want to ping this IP address, I want the user to accept this input or something. You can just say in terms like, just describe what you want the program to do, and think how to secure that. Sorry about the dog.
No, it's absolutely fine. I was very curious, in your experience, when you have like in one hand this kind of making everyone aware of more than the boundaries of their own job, right? You have this in one hand, and then on the other hand, you have tooling and automated checkers and linters and, you know, things that automate part of the job for you. On the other hand, right, it's absolutely true that a combination of both will give you the best results. But I'm really curious, in your experience, how whether you've seen any indication that some people are better at implementing one than the other, and what kind of profile that ties into. So is it like small companies are better at doing the human responsibility side and larger companies are better at the tooling side, or is it something even more complex than that?
I would think it's more complex. I do notice that the smaller companies nowadays, or startups, they tend to do more merging of the security and development team, that security is already at the beginning because they can't afford a Nessus license or something like this. But yeah, I do notice that in bigger companies where they can afford these automated tools and stuff, that they sort of lose the manual checks. So everybody just runs the automated tools, then they check for a couple of days the results and stuff, but they don't really dig deeper. So maybe it is correlated, but depending on the size of, yeah, the bigger, at least it might be because of the affording the tools, basically. That if you can afford the tools, and you buy all those tools, you sort of lose the idea of manual checking and actually digging deep into one vulnerability or something like this.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for your input. I really love this discussion. And if we had all been in person, I'm sure the demo of building a ping together would have gone in a much more interactive manner. Here's to hoping that next year we can do this again and hopefully have a room full of people offering suggestions other than like, don't use Python.
Yeah, everybody uses Python. Every security.
Not that they want to admit it, but yeah. Thank you very much, Valentine. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.